What's up, guys? This is Sojin from the boards with the new install video for the TK-250 version 4. I'm pretty excited with this upgrade. Rob's done some pretty fantastic things with this. First off, we've got the controller. Controller is a little larger than the version 3. I believe it helps with cooling because I haven't had any heat issues. And in general, I think the electronics are a little bit better spaced from my understanding. So electronics are a little bit better spaced, the cooling's a little bit better, and also he's upgraded some of the parts in there to handle bigger motors, and I'll talk about that in a second. The actual compressor head unit, the whole thing, is a 3/4 pound lighter than the previous version 3. So Rob's been able to save some weight through using the new system. And the compressor is pretty fantastic, and I'm going to be talking about that in a second as well. Next up, we've got the foot switch. This is, in my opinion, the one of the more significant updates on this version 4. Rob's done something really intelligent here. He's developed a 2-stage switch. And not only that, but he's also upgraded the software associated with these 2 switches. And what he's done is, on the first stage, which is going to be about half depression on the gas, or maybe a little bit more, he's developed a linear style activation. And what that means is it's going to start from 0 boost and speed up the motor linearly, so it's a nice smooth boost entrance, so you can really control it. I've been using this switch for the last few weeks. It is 90 to 95% of where the proceed is right now, if you've actually messed with the proceed. So it really is a smooth entrance, and I really like it. Also, the second switch it activates. It is a linear ramp up, and what that means, or not linear, excuse me, a logarithmic ramp up. And what that means is that it's going to boost hard and fast. And what I've been running, I've been seeing about 5 psi max at around 3,000 RPMs with the second stage switch, and on the first stage I'm averaging about 2 to 3 psi around the same point. It's really fun to drive, and it feels very similar to the Proceed. Not only that, but he's also updated the thermal D rates. What that means is if the controller gets too hot, or it senses that any of the system is running too hot, the batteries, etc., he has it set up so that the first thermal D rate, the way it works is the first switch no longer produces boost at all. And then the second switch will only produce half boost. Seems like this controller really handles the half boost really easily, and the batteries actually do a really good job, which takes me to the batteries. Rob's decided to go with 3 Odyssey batteries, the PC680s, 2 set up in series like before, and one just off to the side as your starter battery. The wiring is so much simpler. The battery set looks really, like the battery array looks really pretty, which is saying something because you guys know how the wires could get everywhere. And it's just so much easier to use. The Odysseys just seem like a much smarter move, so I'm really happy with what Rob's done here. All right, let's get to the meat and potatoes, the new compressor. There are actually 2 new compressors, and the first one we're going to talk about is the 4,000 watt compressor. This has been slightly redone. Things have been tweaked slightly, that it actually produces a little bit more boost across the entire power band, and the top end's a little bit better. I really like this system. It's a great entry level. There's no problems with this. I know people are going to be more interested in the 5,000 watt system that I'm going to be talking about here shortly, but this is a great system. And he doesn't recommend the auxiliary charger for the 4,000 watt motor, and then it's a standard duty cycle. What that means is basically the boost that you've been seeing in previous Phantoms, so, you know, technically like a minute and a half straight of full boost. That's going to be very similar to the 4,000 watt battery. The 4,000 watt motor, which takes us to the new system, which I've been driving for the last few weeks, and that's the 5,000 watt motor compressor. This thing has a kick and a half. I've been hitting 5 psi with it, about 5.1. I think at the top end I'm at around 2.7, somewhere in that neighborhood. And this thing just kicks hard, and it's a lot of fun to drive. Now, there is some things that you give up, though. First off, you do need the auxiliary charger. There is no. I really feel like you need it. It's recommended. It's optional. Get it for the 5,000 watt motor. It really drains the batteries really quickly. Also, because it drains the batteries really quickly, it's a very short cycle, meaning that I don't think I can push it past 30 seconds. I think I wouldn't be producing much boost past 30 seconds because this thing hits hard and it really drains the batteries quickly. And when it drains the batteries quickly, you need to charge it up. It's pretty exciting. I really like the 5,000 watt motor. If I think it was hitting the track, or if we're doing like any type of any autocrossing, I would probably go with the 4,000 watt one. And I've used both, and I like the 5,000 watt more because it definitely hits harder, but the 4,000 is no slouch either, and you can definitely tell a difference at the top RPMs. This system is a significant upgrade. I really like it. I think you guys are going to like it too, so anyone that's getting this new one is going to be very lucky. Enjoy it. Here's the video for the install video. And just as a reminder, guys, this is on-demand power. This is a hybrid system. Okay, this is a hybrid system for boost. It's not full-time boost, and this is not a cheap eBay special either. It only activates when you need boost, and it's done so well. And I have to give props to Rob and Phantom Superchargers and the job that they've done with all this, because this is an amazing system, and I absolutely love it. And you know, I wish I had money in this, and I don't. You know, I wish I was a part of this company, because I do believe in it, and I do believe in what he does, and I thank him for still trusting me to play with a lot of these toys. So guys, enjoy the install video. Rob, I have to say thank you again for letting me take part in all this, and enjoy, guys. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, so the first step to the install video of the Phantom Supercharger is to take the tubing that is supplied by Phantom and attach it to the compressor housing. First up, we have the cold cranking valve tubing. It's the one with the tube that hangs out, and you want it to follow the same side as the exit point of the compressor housing. Go ahead and attach this. They have two hose clamps that have 8mm bolts on there, and you only want to tighten the side that is to the compressor housing. Next, you want to have the tubing that has the size change on it. And you can see what I'm doing here is I'm going to go ahead and kind of remove the hosing clamp, and then I'm going to loosen it and then reattach it. This is a little stiff to get on there. You'll see me struggle a little bit here, and then get it going. And again, just tighten it down on the side that is attached to the compressor housing. Next, I'm just making sure everything is straight. You want to keep everything as straight as possible. Make sure that you have an even amount of tubing on each side. This is imperative to make sure that your compressor is mounted correctly in a few steps here. So we'll see this go ahead and finish. Next up, we're going to go ahead and get the aluminum tubing that was supplied, and I'm just leaving a little bit of a gap in between the two tubes that were supplied, and just lining up the hose clamps, tightening them down. And again, you want to make sure that this is properly spaced. You should see approximately about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch of tube or aluminum housing in between the two tubes. And this is going to make sure that you have a proper mounting point when you're installing it. Okay, so the next step is going to be building the battery array. First off, what we're going to have is our starter battery on the far right side with the positive facing us here on the screen towards us. And then the first dump pack, same alignment as the starter battery. And then on the left, we're going to have actually the negative facing us, so it is flipped. Then what we're going to do is wrap this with fiberglass tape, and this is very common use in battery array building. It's very effective and very common, so don't freak out about this. It really helps keep it all stable. Next up, we're going to use the dump pack wire, and we're going to connect it to the extension of the negative starter. Plus, we're utilizing the bolts from Phantom, the long bolt plus a lock washer. And we're going to connect this all to the negative dump pack side as shown on the video. Tighten this down. It's a very light tight down. The torque specs are on the battery. Then we're going to go ahead and attach the positive side of the dump pack wire to the positive side of the dump pack battery as shown there. And this is tightened down with the Allen wrench and the bolts supplied by Odyssey batteries. Then we're going to attach the copper wire the copper bar, to the far side of the dump pack batteries, using again the Allen wrench and the Allen supplied screws by Odyssey. This might be a little bit tight. I've got the metal jackets on there, so this is a little bit of a tight squeeze to kind of get this on there, but it works just fine. After that, we're going to go ahead and attach the negative extension to the negative side of the starter battery, again utilizing the supplied screws by Odyssey. And last but not least, we're going to attach the positive post to the starter battery using the long bolt and lock washer that is supplied by Phantom. This is how it looks all finished. Nice tight design with wires that slip in between, so it's a nice flat design. All right, the next part is going to be the intake removal and sound generator removal. So basically what you're going to need to do, there are two hose clamps on the intake, one on the intake side and one also on the airbox side. You're going to remove those two hose clamps, and also the cold cranking valve clamp, which is you're going to need to use pliers to remove that. It's the black tube that was originally removed. After that, you're going to need to remove the sound generator that was connected to the intake. And it extends out from here, goes to this point here. There's about 5 or 6 bolts total, I believe. Goes from here, and then it goes down below towards the firewall and actually goes into the passenger side bay. You're just going to want to rip all that out. You're not going to use the sound generator again. I'm not a big fan of it. I think it's just extra weight. Just throw it aside. Intake, you might want to save just so in case you have to do any dealership repairs. All right, the next step is going to be removing the airbox. The first thing you want to do, at least I suggest, is removing the mass airflow sensor. There's just 2 Phillips screws that you have to remove. It's a small Phillips screwdriver, and you can leave it connected to the sensor wire. Just set it aside. Rob doesn't suggest removing it, but I do. There's going to be 3 bolts holding the front side of the airbox in. 1, 2 right there, and the third one is actually on the resonator that should still be attached. I've removed it here already, but it's going to be connected to this spot right there, actually where the zip tie is. So those 3 bolts hold the whole airbox in. You're going to want to remove those 3 bolts. They're 10mm bolts. Set them aside and then pull out the entire airbox. When you've removed the airbox, you're going to have to drill out 2 rivets. And on the front side of the airbox, on the left side of here, there's the resonator, and there's 2 rivets that hold that in. You're going to use a 3/16 drill bit and just drill out the rivets. It might spin, they might get hot. Just be careful, take your time. Maybe start with a smaller drill bit. It might make it a little easier. Once the rivets have actually been removed, you're going to just go ahead and cap it and then tighten down the hose clamp, and you're all set. It's nice and simple. All right, on this next part for the compressor install, what we're going to do is make sure that the compressor is perfectly aligned. After getting into this position, what you're going to want to do is first go ahead and connect the cold cranking valve connection, which you'll see here in just a second. And then what I did to make sure that this aligned properly is I loosened all the hose clamps and then got it into the position I wanted. And then once I felt like it was in the proper position, I tightened everything up. Connected the cold cranking valve line, and then and you'll see in just a moment what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to see how it lines up in the X, the Y, and also in the Z axis. And you'll see here how I lined it up perfectly with the throttle body, then with the intake, so it was a nice 90-degree angle. But more importantly also, I made sure that in the Z-axis it was straight to the throttle body as well as the intake. So it really makes a huge difference to make sure you have the proper boost going into the car. The controller's install is up next. This is actually pretty straightforward. What we're going to go ahead and do is just mount this. So go ahead and unscrew the little bracket, the grommet, and the screw from the actual controller. And all you're going to end up doing is sliding through the screw right next to the hood strut, slide on the bracket, and then the grommet on top of that. The grommet's going to help hold it in place, which makes it a lot easier. You're going to slide the controller onto that, and then using a 10mm wrench, go ahead and just tighten it all down. I'm not going to connect any of the wires here. I'm just mounting this and showing where it mounts. It's just a simple, this is like 30-second job really quick, and that's that. And on to the next step. The battery array install is next. What we're going to do here basically is we're going to take the entire battery array and just drop it in. We have the tray underneath, And then we have the 3 PC680 Odyssey batteries. Just be careful dropping this in. Make sure you're not grounding it out, not hitting anything. Careful with the wires. My install was a little more difficult due to the fact that I have my amp wire running, and you can see it actually gets stretched a little bit here. But other than that, just drop it in, simple and go. After dropping in the battery array, you need to set up the mount for the battery like so. The metal bar here, the aluminum bar, is given to you by Rob. The 2 screws are actually what's included with the original mount for the battery. You need to grab that. The long side is going to be towards the front of the car. And with the plastic piece already in place on the battery, go ahead and carefully drop in the aluminum bar and the screw onto the battery array to clamp it down. Be very careful not to ground the 2 posts here, and take your time and get it in. It takes a little bit of finessing. Sometimes you have to move the battery array around, but once you're in, tighten it nice and down so it doesn't move around. Okay, here we are in the most time-consuming probably aspect of this entire project, the wire routing. We're in the driver's side wheel well here, and go ahead and remove the center panel here, the side panel. And right where this red wire is going to run, we're going to send through the voltmeter and the foot switch wiring. And to make this easier, you can see I kind of slide the wires together. I kind of go in between them and just send them through the center console. And you want to make sure that on the passenger side, this side panel is removed as well. And just send it through. And then after you get about 10 to 12 inches going through, go to the passenger side wheel well, and you should be able to see it, and you should be able to pull it out. I've actually got a decent amount of wiring running through here because of my audio system, and it still had plenty of room to send the wire through. You don't need to use any fancy tools or anything like that. It's nice and simple. Now you want to pull out enough wire that can go through the firewall and then all the way to the controller near the front of the car, near the bumper. And what we're going to do is route this wire through a grommet on the firewall. So if you peel back on the passenger side, the carpet a little bit, you'll see a little grommet there, and you'll see a red wire. That red wire is my audio amplifier wiring power, so that won't be there. But without any wiring in there, it's really easy to slide through the wiring into the grommet, into the firewall, and into the engine bay. It's actually pretty straightforward. I had enough space even with like a 10 gauge wire going through there, so you shouldn't have a problem at all. In case you're not familiar with where this area is, this is exactly where the sound generator actually was attaching to the firewall and into the passenger side wheel well. So just send it through, be careful, take your time, you don't want to rip anything. And then when you get enough going through it, go into the engine bay, like here, right next to the battery, above the overpipe, and you just want to go ahead and pull it through. Now, again, the amount of wiring you want to have is to have enough to kind of go to the front bumper. Once you have enough pulled out, go back into the passenger wheel well. You're going to go ahead and remove the screws, the plastic screws that hold the carpet up, just a few of them on the left side, and just slide the wire underneath just to hide it, make it nice and clean, and just go ahead and tighten it all back up. I didn't need to use a screwdriver or anything like that. They came off by hand. Once you're all done on the passenger side over here, just go ahead and put the side panel back up, because you will no longer be in this area, and you're good to go. Next up is the voltage meter mounting. This is really straightforward. There's a double-sided mounting tape on the voltmeter for you. What you're going to go ahead and do is slide the voltmeter in between the steering wheel column and the panel. And you have a few options where to mount it at. Some people like it near that starter switch. Mine, it doesn't work there. On the left side near the trunk. I actually prefer up on the right side above right there to mount it. It's a little difficult to get it there, but it works well for me because I get to see it perfectly. Next you want to do is wire in the fuse that's connected to the voltmeter. So this is still in the driver's side wheel well, and on the upper left, this is upside down, you have the fuse area. If you look on the left, far left, there are 2 10 amp fuses that have a gap in between them. That's exactly where you want to mount the fuse that's connected to the voltmeter, and go ahead and just clean up the wires a little bit and put the cover back on. Alright, here we are in the driver's side footwell, and what we're going to do is mount the foot switch for the Phantom. And this is a 2-stage switch. So I'm looking at the accelerator pedal, and I'm just placing the foot switch onto that screw. And then you can see it on the top of the screen here and resting. What you want to do is get the 10 millimeter nut that Rob supplies, tighten it down. And you're going to kind of see me actually line this switch up so that when I push down on the accelerator pedal, you'll hear both the first click and then a secondary click. Sometimes it takes a little bit of adjustment to make sure that you get both clicks working properly. And you want to be very careful that when you tighten it down, it's going to have a tendency to move the switch clockwise. So you're going to want to make sure that that's really tight beforehand, and then go ahead and adjust the switches. Now there are two switches on the foot switch. The initial one does a linear ramp up, and then there's the second switch that does a logarithmic ramp up for the boost. The second one does a full boost, and the first one only does a max of 2 to 3 psi. And then here we are in the driver's side footwell again still, and what we're basically doing is just putting the wires behind inside the center console and then putting our side panel back, just to go ahead and clean it all up and make everything look nice. So with that, foot switch is in and we're good to go. All right, here we are back in the engine bay. What we're going to go ahead and do is connect all the wires to the controller as well as the dump pack. So what we're going to go ahead and do first is take the voltmeter and foot switch and line up the colors and connect those together. You want to be very careful when you do this. Make sure the white goes to white, brown goes to brown, etc., etc., etc. If those get mixed, something can go poof. Next, take the power eyelet cords that come off the controller, and you want to connect it to the battery post terminals. What I go ahead and do here is I unscrew basically the battery clamp terminal and attach it there, and do the same to the positive and the negative. So the red line coming from the controller goes to the positive side, the black line goes to the negative side of the starter battery. Next, I go ahead and connect the bullet connectors for the motor. That's again coming straight off of the controller, and make sure that you do not tie these down. It has been very common for these to get loose due to people overusing zip ties. If you see here, I'm just using a very loose, basically wire collector here. Next up, what you're going to go ahead and do is route the dump pack wire underneath your strut bar and kind of route it between the fuse box and the engine bay. And I don't connect this just yet, the dump pack batteries. I'm just kind of lining it up and getting it in position, making sure everything's going to look good and that they're going to reach. Next, I go ahead and tie down the positive side of the battery. I go ahead and clamp that down onto the starter battery and tighten it with a 10mm wrench. So positive side first, and then I'm going to do the negative side, tie that down. And then I go ahead and spend the next several minutes actually adjusting the wires so that they go along the fender of the passenger side, and just tighten everything up and make sure all my connections are good, and get everything inside either looms or zip tie it to the fender, and just make sure that all my wire routing is nice and clean to make sure it's not going to get hit by anything or have any issues with overheating or anything like that. And that's it, guys. We're pretty much at the end here. Next step is basically getting in the car and driving. All right, here's the final overview of the system and with the completed install. So what we have here is going to be the compressor installed, properly clamped down, and we have the bullet connectors going from the controller to the motor with a loom holding it all together, the controller with the foot switch and voltage switch wired correctly, colors paying attention. Next, you have the power that actually runs to the starter battery, both to either side of the clamps of both negative and positive. Then you've got the dump pack batteries that come off the 24 volts of two PC680s in series, and it's going to run from there underneath the strut bar across, and then if you see here, there it is connected to the dump pack connector of the controller. From there, you see we have an auxiliary charger, which I'll have an install video for later on, and how clean the install looks. It looks a lot nicer than it did before. And then our wires all loomed together properly and everything tight and tidy. And that's it, guys. Thank you for watching the video. I appreciate the time. Hopefully this install video helps you out a lot, and I look forward to the next iteration. Okay, here's the last overview of the system. We've got the compressor here and the motor, and then also the 3 bullet connectors here. And beside this loom, we have the controller with the wires for both the voltmeter and the foot switch here connected here. Then we've got the power connection, which goes from here, and it connects to the 2 battery clamps here, positive side and negative. Then we have the dump pack, which is the 2 24-volt batteries, or 2 12-volt batteries in series for 24 volts here on the left, going down underneath here, and there's the dump pack battery connection under here, so you can see in between here. So that's everything. that's an auxiliary charger for the batteries. I'll be doing an install video later on for that. And there we go. So that's everything. Wire mounted, everything properly aligned, and voltmeter inside, etc.